Hey, this is Professor Homa. We're going to work on making a wine glass in Blender, different ways to do it. We're going to use it by extruding. So I'm going to start by deleting my cube and hitting my X key and getting rid of the cube. And what I'm going to do is add a cylinder, and I do have a sheet for this, so I'm following the steps. So add a cylinder is number 2. So I'm going to add a mesh cylinder. And when I do that, I want to flatten it down. To do that, I want to first view it from ortho mode, which is 5, and then I want to hit 1 from the front, and I could zoom in here. There's my cylinder, and I can move it up a little bit and hold shift to get it in the middle of my screen. Okay, and I want to flatten this down to about 0.05, and that's my Z size. So I could go in here to my properties, and for scale, go in this area here and put 0.05, and it'll flatten it down like a coin. Now that it's flat, I'll move it all the way down on the grid. Okay, so that's step 4. Now I'm going to go into edit mode, and I really want to zoom into this, so I want to make sure I have it nice, filled up my screen, and zoom into this for what I'm going to do to start. So I'm going to go into edit mode because we're going to start messing with all the little vertices on this piece that I made. This is basically the bottom of the wine glass, so that's how we're going to start. So I'll move this down. I'll go into edit mode, which you can hit your tab key. And notice everything's selected, so you hit your A key to deselect everything. And I'm going to use my B selector to make a box selection, and I'll drag so I just get the top. Now before I do that, I'm going to select that and I'm going to undo, because one thing I forgot again was go down here and make sure that you turn this off, because right now I'm only selecting visible. So, and let me just show you what I mean by that. If I hit B and I select this, and I move these things up, I hit G to move them up. What I'm actually doing, if I move around here, I'm only selecting the top half. So it's not going all the way through. It's only selecting the visible ones. So let me undo that, and I'll view back from 1 again. So I want to deselect. That's why I want to turn this off down here and make sure that I select all the way through. So I'm going to go AA just to make sure nothing's selected, and I'll hit B for the box select and get just the top. Now, what I'm going to do, the 2 keys I'm going to use here is E for extrude. Extrude will actually pull a new shape out of there. So it'll actually extend the selection I have. G just moves it, but E actually extends another piece from it. And you'll see what I mean once I start doing that. So now that I have this, I'm going to hit E, my E key, and I'm going to drag this up. You can see it's moving straight up. I don't have to hit EZ. If it's moving side to side, you could do EZ. But I think if you're in straight on ortho mode, it'll move straight up. So I'm moving straight up, and I just want to move up a little bit, maybe about half of what the bottom is. And then I'm going to hit E and move that up a little. And then I have to click to stop extruding. I forgot to do that. So after you move something, to OK it, you have to left click to stop. So I'll stop that. Now I'll hit my S key. And you can see I could pull that out. I'm going to bring it in. You can see it looks like the top of like a stadium or something. I'll move that in a little bit towards the center. Okay, and then I click to, now that I'm done, and I'm going to hit E again and bring something else out, and then click and hit S again, and then bring it towards the center. And you can see what I'm doing. I'm just kind of like building little pieces. And my angle is not the same. It's going up a little bit. And every time I have to click, I'll go E, bring it up a little bit, click, and hit S, bring it toward the middle. And you see what I'm doing? I'm kind of building the bottom of my wine glass here. So I'm always clicking when I'm done. So I E, and I drag it out, which is extruding. Then I click to finish the extrude. Then I hit S, and I bring it in. And you can see how I'm kind of, modeling this. And we could smooth it out later. And again, I'll do E, bring it up, click, and then hit S, scale it in. And you can see I could scale it out too and make a bowl or something, but I'm moving it in towards the center. You can see it's getting nice and tapered, and sooner or later I'm going to start making the stem, which goes all the way up. So I'm going to bring it up a little bit again, and I'll scale it in a little bit. And that's about as thick as I want to make my stem. So I'm going to bring my stem up. Okay, I pulled my stem up. Now I'm going to do E again. And I'm going to start working my way out. E, click, and then S to scale to start bringing it out again. I could zoom in a little here. And I'm going to start making the bowl of my wine glass. So I'm going to do E, bring it up, click, S, scale it out because I'm still going out, and E, and there is a way where you can put an image back here to trace it. I'm just kind of doing this just by eye, so it's not always the best thing to do. But again, I'm kind of moving it out, E, scale, and I'll pause here again and then try to finish up this, and then I'll go over a couple things. Alright, I'm back, and here's what I have so far, and I'll zoom back a little bit so you can see what I have for my glass. There it is. It's not perfect. It could be a little shorter, but I could always fix that and scrunch it down a little bit if I want. One thing I want to remember, and I'm going to go down here to select faces, and I'll do AA to make sure nothing's selected, and I'm going to right click on the face and make sure there's nothing inside here. Make sure that I have no face inside of my glass, because when I put a texture on here, I want to make sure that it's hollow in the center. And it doesn't look like I'm seeing anything there when I select face, so I think I'm okay. I think last time I did something else and I made a face on here, but I think I'm okay. It's hollow in the center. There's no face to select, but it doesn't hurt to check. So anyway, here's my glass right now, and if I wanted to make any changes to it, I'll view from 1 again. You know, if I wanted to squash it down, I could do those things like using a box select, and I could always go G and kind of move it down and squash things a little. Now here, you see when I do that, it's like getting some weird things here. So I'm going to click and do Command Z. Always make sure you do A and then A again. And you know, if you did want to do a box select with B and bring anything down, you know, if I'm moving it down, I could go GZ, and that way it'll move it down kind of onto itself. And if I wanted to bring more, make sure to go A again to deselect everything, and I'll go B to select the box. Maybe I want to shorten this one a little bit. And actually I'm on faces, so make sure I go back to here and move that down, and I'm going to go GZ and move that down a little bit. And again, I could fix things later. One thing I'll show you, if I didn't like the way that angled in there, I could zoom in on this. Here I'm going to zoom in, and if I find that's too rough in here, one thing I can do, I'll hit A, I could do a loop cut. Now what a loop cut, I like to just kind of click in here. I like to get on face and just kind of click in here. And if you do Control R, and I'm going to go up here and put a loop cut, and you can see you can move it around. I'll click here, and then you can still move it. I'm going to click one more time. Now once you do that loop cut, I could hit S, and I could pull it in, or I could pull it out a little. And you can see I could just pull out a little bit to give a little more bevel to that. I could go down here and do the same thing, Control R, and if I want that right in the middle, I could click, move it down a little bit, and now if I hit S, I could pull that loop cut out ever so slightly. Doesn't need a lot at all. Alright, so that's my loop cut. Again, I'll zoom out a little bit here. If I wanted to shorten this at the bottom, I can do an A to deselect everything. Make sure you're on the points again, and I'll do a B. And I'm going to bring this down a little bit. I'll go GZ and kind of shorten this. You see I'm shortening this a little bit. Now here's where I may want to, now the glass is getting a little odd shape, so I may want to, pull some of these points out. And the way I could do that, I can do A, and then I could do B and select kind of this area in here, and do S, and pull that out a little bit. So now it looks okay. There's my glass. Okay, I'll do A to deselect everything. And what I'm going to do now, I think, is going to, well, let me check my bottom. Before I do that, I'm going to check on the bottom of this and make sure that looks okay. I'll view it in 1. And that actually looks okay. And like I said, if you wanted to put if you needed to add some more, another section here to work on a little bit more, or if you wanted to shorten this bottom or something, you can go, I'll do A, and then I'll do B, and if I wanted to shorten this bottom, I'll highlight these on the bottom, make sure I'm using the vertex selection, and then I could do GZ, and just move up a little, or actually just G, and just move it up. See, now I turned it off of GZ. I'm going to undo that, and make sure I just do G. I'll undo that again and do GZ, and now move it up I can move it up using this arrow too. I could even scale and bring it in a little bit. Or another thing I could do is I'll do AA. I could go in here and do a loop cut. And put a loop cut right in the middle, and then do a scale, and scale it out a little, just to make it a little rounded on the bottom. Okay, so that should be it. Again, takes a little practice. All right, so I'm going to zoom out there. So there's my glass. Okay, and I'm still in edit mode, so I'm going to deselect everything, and then go back out into object mode, and then this is where I'm going to go over to the modifier. I'm going to do the subdivision surface, which is going to split up all the surfaces. And I'll do it like 2, and it's doing something. See, there's where it's putting a top on there. I'm not sure why. I didn't think I had a top on there. But actually, maybe I just didn't see it when I was in there. So before I do anything, I'm going to cancel out of here and go back into edit mode. And I didn't think I had any top on here. I don't, but somehow I guess it's smoothing it. I guess when I add the modifier, let me go back into object mode. It's like kind of putting a top on here, and I don't want that top. It's making it solid, so I have to figure out a way to get the top off of there. Alright, I figured a way to get the top off of there. When you go back into edit mode, I wasn't seeing it properly. Now I am. The reason that is because when I was in here, when I had this limit selection to visible, I wasn't seeing it. So if I turn that off, now I could select this face, and I should be able to just hit my X key to delete only faces, and now it gets rid of that face on there. So wasn't sure why I wasn't seeing the top of that properly. So again, it's that limit selection to visible which sometimes causes issues. So anyway, now I'm going to go back to object mode, and now I'm going to add my modifier, subdivision surface, smooth it out real nice. You could do it a couple times here. You could even go over here to smooth and add even a smoother shape on it. And again, if I'd want to shorten this thing, let's say I think the stem's too long, I could go over here to edit mode, and I could turn this thing off again, and I'll view it in ortho, straight on, and I'll do my B select, and I'll select everything, and just kind of move it down. I could grab this and just kind of move it down. Now I'm shortening my stem a little bit, so that may be a little better. I'll deselect, and I'll go back into object mode. So now it's a little shorter, it's a little more the way I want. Okay, next thing I'll do is I'll have to add a texture to it, and we're going to add a glass texture, and I'll do that in the next movie, and I'll do that real quick. It's just some settings that'll be on your sheet that you have to put on there. So I'm going to stop here.